Everybody, this is just a quick video showing you who's going at each position in these rookie mock drafts. If you think you know who's going to go at this position, leave a comment down below. Who do you think it's going to be? And see if any of my guests who've been on agree with you. And before we get into it, hey, hit that like, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe. We're on a march towards, 500 subscribers. I'd love to be able to do it before we get into this season of football. That'd be awesome. So help me out and let's go. Let's see who's going at this draft pick show. Okay, so who's following him at pick 1-6?
I think this is where I could be convinced to take Anthony Richardson because for all the reasons that everyone's been screaming at the TV for, or however they're consuming this podcast or YouTube video. But I'm not going to do that because I believe in Jordan Addison as he fell to Minnesota. Talk about great landing spot. I really like Kirk Cousins as a fantasy quarterback as far as facilitating to what he's done for Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson over the years. And I think the knocks about his size and his ability in press coverage, they say that that's a pretty common criticism for people of his size. And while it might be warranted, I think what is more important is his age-adjusted production in college as the best college wide receiver when he was at Pitt and then transferring. He didn't meet the same expectations that he had with a better quarterback at USC, he still produced well. He did deal with some injuries, and I just think Jordan Addison really fits what they're trying to do in Minnesota very well. And I think it might not have the ceiling here, but sometimes when I'm at the 106, as I'm not always just swinging for ceiling all the time. And I think, all right, so here's another piece of advice. So I have all this advice now because not that anyone's listening now that I haven't taken their favorite player yet, but wide receiver depth in fantasy is an overstatement. I think that is not true. Like if you're playing in a league where you start 3 and there's like one or two flexes, which is more and more common nowadays, wide receivers dry up really quick. It might feel like there's 40 wide receivers that you're comfortable with, but when it comes down to the end of the season, like because of injuries and the way it shakes out at the end of the season, there's only the wide receiver becomes a little scarce. The same with running back. But the thing is, when a running back goes down, you can pick a guy up off the waiver wire, or your third. You have all these players stashed in your bench. You can't just have when a wide receiver goes down, your replacement does not perform the same way it does like in the running back position. Yeah. So I think the perceived depth at wide receiver is not true, and so I like to stockpile my wide receivers, even if they might be a little, they might not be as hot and sexy as running backs or quarterbacks in Superflex.
That is a really, really good point, actually, right? Whenever, say your star receiver goes down, and say Jamar Chase goes down, and the Bengals have to bring in that guy that looked like Hayden Hurst. What's he called? The small guy that looks like like a mini Hayden Hurst, who was Irwin. Was it Irwin?
Oh, Trent Irwin. Yeah, Trent Irwin.
Yeah, right. It's not like Chase came out and Irwin is now playing. It's not like Irwin's getting all those targets. No, they're just going to T. Higgins. Like, that's not how it works. Whereas the running back comes out, there's only one guy that comes in. He's getting all the runs. He's getting all the extra targets. So, yeah, you're right. It doesn't quite work the same way as running back. So get as many of these receivers as you can.
And sometimes, too, you do get committees who fill in for these star running backs. But more often than not, you're going to be able to get at least some floor value with a replacement level running back versus a replacement level wide receiver.
So you mentioned that top 6 is a lock. Are we locking in JSN here then?
Yeah, we can lock him in pretty comfortably. I think JSN. We've been talking about JSN for months and maybe years now. If you follow the NFL and going back to what he did as a freshman, obviously we know that the talk of Olave and Garrett Wilson both saying that he was the best wide receiver over there at Ohio State, and obviously what he did in that freshman year was unreal, to be honest. And it's a shame that we didn't really get to see him this last final year in college, and I think that's put people a little bit sour on him because it's kind of that, well, we've not seen him for a while. We forgot just how great he is. But yeah, I think he's going to be a top wide receiver in the NFL. You could maybe be a little bit disappointed that he went 20th overall to the Seahawks. I think a lot of us were maybe hoping he could get a little bit early draft capital, but I still think you're getting a first round wide receiver at the 105 spot with solid draft capital going to the Seahawks. Again, this is another situation where people aren't too keen on the landing spot. Obviously, we know DK Metcalf's there. Tyler Lockett as well. And I think he's going to fit into that wide receiver 3 role straight away and be that slot guy, because we know how great he has been in the slot. But Tyler Lockett's not getting any younger. DK Metcalf, we know what he is. We know what DK Metcalf offers in the receiving game. And I feel like JSN offers something completely different to that. And I think he's going to be brilliant for Geno Smith, having that safety blanket of somebody like a Jackson Smith and Jigba. People are worried that he's not going to be hugely efficient and put great fantasy numbers up year one. And I'd agree with that, because we know the Seahawks love to run the ball. But I think long term for Dynasty, yeah, I think he's going to be a great wide receiver. I've got no issues of ranking him right now as a top 15 wide receiver in Dynasty, because I think he's going to be brilliant, and I think the ceiling's potentially even better than what people give him credit for.
I can almost see him being almost like, do you remember whenever Devonta Smith first came out and the first sort of 6-7 games he wasn't producing? Yeah. That's whenever I went out and I bought an absolute ton of Devonta Smith, because it's like you can't just expect everybody to be Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. It used to be a saying that these rookie wide receivers take like a third-year breakout, right? That used to be a saying. Obviously, now we're getting used to these guys hitting as rookies. But Jackson Smith and Jigba, I'm wondering if there's something there with him. If he doesn't, come out and light the world on fire right away, I bet there might be a window there where you can get Jackson Smith and Jigba at a price. So I'd keep your eyes peeled for that just in case. And I actually do quite like the landing spot. The more I think about it, I'm like, actually, I'm quite happy with that one.
Yeah,
so.
I think that's why I've probably put Jahmyr Gibbs above Njigba, because I feel like if maybe a few weeks into the NFL, I feel like Gibbs is going to have that bit more value, because if JSN isn't lining it up straight away, I feel like Gibbs is probably the more likely of the two to have an early start, and his value is obviously going to be higher than what JSN's is, and then maybe you can make that move like you mentioned. You can move off Gibbs to a JSN and probably get plenty more thrown on top as well. So that's probably why I've got it the way I have at the minute in my rankings.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we've kind of got that top 6 locked in. Is JSN your next guy? Then you said you'd swap them over.
Yeah. JSN will be the next pick. He's still the top running back, wide receiver in this rookie class. Just he separated himself with the pre-draft process through the combine. Just such a class player. We know what Garrett Wilson was able to do, Chris Olave, and they both said that Jackson Smith and Jigba is the best wide receiver of the three. I think he's got a long way to go to bet what they done in year one, and I also think it's obviously going to be tough of him year one with Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf on that Seattle team, as well as Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. I think they're absolutely loaded, and I don't think there's a way that he can see 20% share in year one. I think it's going to be shared around, which is going to be fine. I think it's going to be more year two where you really see that value increase when they sort of fade. Tyler Lockett, who's still locked into that contract, but he's 31 now, going to be 32. Surely he's going to start slowing down. And I think once he does move on, I think Jackson Smith and Jigba and DK Metcalf are going to absolutely smash. So yes, it's more of a long-term play, but if you're picking him at 106, you're going to feel absolutely great about getting him there.
You know what? I'm convinced halfway through the season, there's going to be a buy window for Jackson Smith and Jigba. And I can't wait to jump on it. The exact same way it was with Devonta Smith in his first year. There was a little window where you could go and buy him because, he didn't have that target share fully fleshed out yet. I think JSN might go through the same kind of thing where he's still learning the offense, doesn't quite have that high target share because there's a lot of other people around him. I think there's going to be a buy window there, and I'm certainly going to jump on it with both hands.
I also think that if he does come out the gate and absolutely smashes, I think then that sets up a buy window for DK Metcalf, because he's already from where he was this time last year. He's already sliding down people's values. So again, if the three is sharing the workload around, I think this could be a small buy window for DK as well.
Yeah, I like that as well, actually. I never even thought of that one. Yeah, but go get yourself some DK Metcalf. I have 0 shares of DK Metcalf, actually. I might go and fix that.
Jordan Addison at 107 for me.
Yeah.
Which, again, is quite chalky, but I think he's going to have a season do you remember Juju at the Patriots when Antonio Brown was there?
The Steelers.
The Steelers, not he's at the Patriots. when he was at the Steelers and Antonio Brown was there.
Yeah.
And he went off because Antonio Brown pulled away from Juju. So Juju was quite open quite a lot. And I think that's going to happen with Addison. You know, Jefferson's going to require so much cover. And I know, you know, he's always going to see the ball and he's going to demand it. But I think that's going to leave a lot of space for Addison. And I think, is it Ali? Ali's put him down as the offensive rookie of the year and said he's got the outside chance. And I'm inclined to agree with him. I probably wouldn't put money on it because you'd obviously going to see one of these QBs. If one of the QBs goes off, then it's going to be one of them very easily. But I think Jordan Addison, I think he could have that season like Juju had when he played alongside Antonio Brown and could set the world alight, mate. And he could be somebody that people value over JSN in 12 months' time, you know?
Yeah, I really like Addison, and he got like the dream landing spot. Obviously, our teammates at the Wildcard Dynasty show, that was literally the dream landing spot they picked for him over at the Vikings. And yeah, with Justin Jefferson, that guy commands your respect. You gotta double team him. Even with, people are forgetting, they've got like TJ Hawkins in there as well, who is no slouch when it comes to the receiving game. You gotta keep an eye on him. Jordan Addison's going to see single coverage. And what he did best in college was just getting open against single coverage. So I think he's going to, do really, really well. Pretty much right off the bat. Because he's got no real competition for that slot as well. So I think getting a guy like Addison, who's going to be like consistent wide receiver 2 probably, right? For most of his career. He might even sneak up into, like we've seen Devontae Smith do, like sneak up into wide receiver 1 territory. But getting a consistent wide receiver 2 at pick 7, that's really good value. So I like Addison there a lot.
So
yeah, absolutely. This is where you have to take Jackson Smith and Jigba off the board. He is the number 1 wide receiver in this draft. It might take him a little while to warm up. I'm convinced we're going to have a Devontae Smith moment here where he might come out and have his first couple of games and people are feeling down on him and there's a buy window. Go buy him. Like the same way you should have with Devontae Smith. Go buy Jackson Smith and Jigba if a window opens because of target share, because of, him taking a while to learn the playbook or whatever. This guy is too good on tape for, him not to be a success here. So you might be able to throw out, an offer like a future first or something like that might get it done. See what you could do to grab somebody like Jackson Smith and Jigba if that buy window opens. It might not, but I just have a sneaky feeling that it might. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, I agree with you. To be fair, I think there is going to be a buy window, and I think it's something like a lot of we play Dynasty and Dynasties all year round, but I kind of feel that week 1, a lot of people's mindset goes straight to redraft. You know what I mean? And I think if DK Metcalf week 1 comes out and absolutely dominates a game, we're talking 10, 11 targets, 100 yards, touchdown. JSN gets 1 target for 9 yards. Then week 2, DK comes out again, and it's sort of like, again, 8, 9 targets, something like that. Has a great game. JSN walks away with 2 targets, 1 in the red zone, say. I think then is when you jump on it. A lot of people probably wouldn't sell him that cheap then and sort of go, I'm still hoping. But I think if you could, if you're missing that one piece and you're willing to give away a first for that, I think that's quite a thing to do. And I think, if that can maintain that for the first couple of weeks and, he may have a game with 4 or 5 targets in, but I think if he comes out week 1 and has sort of 6 or 7 targets, I think he's going to be hard to buy on a cheap. Then I think people will be all in him,
Yeah, so, the Devontae Smith thing, I've just looked it up. It was 8 targets, 6 receptions, 7 targets, 2 receptions, 6 targets, 3 receptions, and then 7 and 7, and then 2. And then there was the buy window. Because people were kind of like, not really feeling them. And then, of course, look what he's done this year. Finishes receiver 9 overall.
Yeah, it's I love the theory behind it. I love the theory that, and that's the thing with Dynasty as well. It's you're always trying to to keep active and keep maintaining that team turnover, and active people will always win. Active people will always win. If you're not active, you won't win.